Maximum security, my understanding is they may have, what, four, five, up to six people in a cell that's meant for two.
The National Security Minister disturbed by his tour of the prison today.
We have gotten funds included in our loan.
New measures are in place, but rain is still slowing down roadworks.
At least about 80% of that monies never came from the government.
And customs and immigration officers say the government owes them money. The Bahamas Tonight starts now.
Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm Keishla Adderley. Thanks so much for joining us. Topping the news tonight, National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage toured Her Majesty's prisons today, describing the experience as sobering, though he's acknowledged the improvements at the facility like training opportunities and the establishment of an on-site court which reduces prisoner transport needs. He says new laws meant to strong-arm criminals have only made a lingering prison problem worse. Carla Palmer explains.
While the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Bernard Nottage, saw many of the improvements at Her Majesty's prison in Fox Hill, he also saw areas requiring his ministry's urgent need of attention, such as overcrowding.
Maximum security, my understanding is they may have, what, four, five, up to six people in a cell that's meant for two.
While maximum security was designed to house 450 inmates, Superintendent of Prisons, Dr. Elliston Ramming, says today its population exceeds 800.
Part of the problem is in November or thereabouts last year, when the new laws were passed, we experienced a deluge of persons coming to prison, as opposed to going on bail, coming to prison. And so that has significantly bloated our population. Up to October of last year, our daily population was around 1,300, and now it's around 1,550 on a daily basis. And so, along with the passage of those bills, there now has to be a mechanism by which there can be a greater outflow of persons from prison, small-time minor offenders perhaps, or even diversionary programs away from the prison to community service and so forth.
Dr. Nottage says this was what he was alluding to when he announced a revision of the crime bills.
Today, people are so fearful of crime and so concerned about crime that they really don't want you to release anybody. They want everybody to be in prison for 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 30 years. But the truth of the matter is that the facility we have cannot accommodate that. And even if we were to build a new facility, we're really going to have to look at what the policy is about these matters. In spite of the electronic monitoring, which enables additional people to get bail, the overcrowding hasn't, I don't think, gotten any better.
Also in need of urgent attention are repairs to the roof of the maximum prison, a cost estimated at $600,000.
That's a lot of money. And people wonder why we want to spend $600,000 on a roof for a prison. But you can't. Well, one of the things pointed out to me was it's a security issue too, because these people are very clever, and if they can't get through the gates, they can get through the roof. But separate and apart from that, we have to provide adequate housing conditions for inmates.
With the budget under review right now, Minister Nottage says the government is prepared to invest what's needed at Her Majesty's prison. But how much the government is able to invest at this time will be determined by this year's budget. Carla Palmer, ZNS News.
Well, also during that prison tour, the illegal contraband problem was also highlighted. Superintendent Ramming says drugs and cellular phones continue to show up on the compound.
We, 2 years ago, introduced cell phone sniffing dogs, of course drug dogs as well. We are working with the American Embassy to introduce new technology, the Boss Chair, which detects metallic objects secreted in body parts. We have seriously and rigorously strengthened our search operations for the detection of contraband of whatever type. And I think that there is a greater commitment on the part of staff so that within each facility on a daily basis, there are searches are going on.
Rainy weather will mean roadworks delays, adding to public ire over the months-long hassle. And roadworks officials say expect more road closures as they complete the final stretch of the massive project. But as Janaea Noel Ferguson tells us, in the future, the ministry has new plans for how they'll proceed with road repairs.
Government has committed to seeing the roadworks project through, despite past criticisms. But exactly how will this new road and infrastructure be maintained once the project is complete? Spokesperson in the Ministry of Works, Shanique Albury, says modern technology for the first time allows them to put some new measures in place.
We have gotten funds included in our loan to actually implement into the ministry for the first time an electronic road maintenance and management system.
Albury says before there was nothing to show what improvements were made and why. She added that persons are being trained to keep up with the new advancements.
We've been doing road maintenance as well as maintenance of all of the infrastructure that we're responsible for, more or less on an ad hoc basis, or perhaps based on what the request from the public. Someone calls and say, can you come and fix a pothole in my area, or they bring something to our attention. With the road management and maintenance system, we are now looking at taking inventory and stock of all of the assets that we have. So that's how many roads we have, what type of roads, what type of infrastructure or maintenance is needed on them. Do they have reflectors? Do they have street lights? Do they have traffic lights? Do you have road markings, pedestrian crossings? All of these types of things are being cataloged in a GPS system that's all being uploaded electronically.
Funds and manpower are always a factor in maintenance, but Aubrey says in the future, roads will be repaired on a priority basis.
You always have more needs in which you have the budget available and perhaps resources in terms of people as well to actually facilitate. So you have to have some system of choosing what gets, the attention now versus something getting the attention later. Or there's some method of determining what gets maintained and when.
Janaea Noel Ferguson, ZNS News.
Well, there's more rain in the forecast for several days to come. Here's Albury on how that'll affect the project going forward.
It has impacted progress. Quite a number of things that we have to do in our works cannot be done in wet weather, rainy weather. Obviously, once it's full out rain, there's no work going on for the most part. Certain types of work, such as preparation of material for paving and paving as well, can also still be delayed after rain because you cannot work wet or saturated material. So sometimes even after the rain has stopped, there's still an additional delay because you have to wait for the material to dry out to a certain level. That wet material that's like very, very saturated with rainwater cannot be used right away. So we have had some significant delays in the last few weeks because of the rain. But we are still trying to work through it as much as we can. Something that's outside of our control, we have to press forward.
The government says it's the intention of this administration to save families. Social Services Minister Melanie Griffin, in her first public appearance, opened a Save the Family workshop put on in partnership with the Crisis Center and the Catholic Diocese today. The group has noted that the 1960s ratio of unwed mothers, 30% versus 70%, has been reversed now and has adversely affected child rearing.
Implementation of a number of initiatives and expanding the role of social services to make it a major factor in social development. We will seek to do so in partnership with organizations like the Crisis Center and the Roman Catholic Archdiocese, Family Life Ministries, and other faith-based and civic organizations. A major thrust will be ongoing opportunities for public education.
Now, Minister Griffin says much of the problems that we see today as social problems begin as financial problems, and she hopes after the talk and discussions in the forum that some productive action will follow.
Unless the knowledge you have is imparted to the general public, then your work and our work will be in vain, and definitely we will not see the change that we need to have in our country. So I therefore put our speakers on notice that they should expect to be called upon more frequently. We are in a fight to save our families, our communities, and our country from the scourges of anger and violence that beset us so heavily. It is a fight. It is a fight.
The Free National Movement is gearing up for key party elections. ZNS News understands that the leadership post to be demitted by former Prime Minister and F&M leader, the Right Honorable Hubert Ingram, is expected to go to opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis unopposed, but that the deputy leadership race looks to be a hot contest. Former Education Minister, Mr. Desmond Bannister, former State Minister for Social Services Loretta Butler Turner, and former Bamboo Town candidate Cassius Stewart are expected to contest the post. Deputy Chairman incumbent Michael Turnquest is seeking re-election and will face former Elizabeth candidate Dr. Dwayne Sands and former Carmichael candidate Darren Cash. The Democratic National Alliance says while the speech from the throne puts forward an extensive and well-crafted national and social agenda, the speech, in their view, gave no clear plan of action or the frame for the implementation of this extensive array of promises. The DNA says the government's speech from the throne is an indication that the Bahamian people are more than likely in for another 5 years of the same old Christie administration of the past, plenty of talk and little action. The DNA claims Bahamians expected the speech to be a voice and reflection of this administration's experience and maturity, but it fails to live up to that expectation. The DNA adds for a government that, in the run-up to it coming to power, claimed to be ready to govern from day one. The speech from the throne is not a reflection of that. A Family Island farmer takes a unique approach to the field. Find out more coming up in the Bahamas Tonight.